welcome to our specialization in global affairs. We are sitting here at Leiden University. My own name is Madeline Hosley. I have been running the MOOC, The Changing Global Order, and I'm a professor in international relations here at Leiden University. Next to me is Professor Richard Griffiths.
Yeah, hi. I'm Professor of International Studies here in Leiden University, and I've met many of you on the course Configuring the World, either in the recent run that's just finished or the previous one. So it's nice to see many of you back again.
As you know, this specialization is offered together with the University of Geneva, and we're extremely happy to have Dr. Stadler with us on board. We'll move right now to Dr. Stadler.
Thank you, Madeleine. So a warm welcome also from the Geneva side. So my name is Lea Stadler, and you probably know me from the course on international organization management, where I've actually taught the model on public-private partnerships together with Professor Probst. And as you've probably seen from the assignment, you can also write your essay about challenge to international organizations. And so you're very invited to look once again at our MOOC and think about where can this challenge come from in terms of shifting context for international organizations. And then you might go back to the different topics that we had in terms of implications for the strategy of an international organization, for the structure, governance structure, for actually their partnering strategy, or for leadership in that organization, and also for their fundraising and marketing activities. So there are a lot of topics related to international organizations that you can write about, and we will talk about finding actually your research question more also in this Google Hangout. So thank you very much for registering for this course, and I'm sure that it will be a great learning experience for you. So with that, I will hand over to Madeleine.
Yes, thank you very much. So back to Leiden. Indeed, you probably all noticed that our three online courses, in a way, talk to each other. And there are many issues and topics that are fascinating to look at on the basis of material in these three courses. Now, obviously, in today's Hangouts, we'll address some of the issues, some of the formal issues again, also get back a little bit to issues raised in the discussion forum, because we do see that, and we'll also talk about very specific elements that are going to be relevant in terms of the topics to be addressed, the opportunities that you have in this course. So very much welcome again to the course as a whole. I think it makes a lot of sense to actually pass on now to Richard, to Professor Griffiths, to talk about some of the issues.
Wow, that's a surprise. But you will have noticed that one of the things that we have this time is a challenge from the OECD. And perhaps I ought to say a few words about the OECD. It's often described as a rich man's club, but it represents most of the developed economies in the world. But it addresses issues far wider than that. Most people don't know that development assistance is also channeled through the OECD. And some of the advice they give is of truly international scope. For example, in the last few weeks, they've put out a scheme whereby the places where multinational companies can declare their profits will be more put under control, so that you stop shifting your profits to where the tax haven is more beneficial to you. So these are the kind of issues that they deal with. Now, the OECD challenge is put out there, and the prize of that challenge is for the winners to be welcomed to the OECD forum in late spring in order to present their ideas. But it isn't exclusive of the others. All of the work that we're doing is open to the question, why can't international organizations solve dramatic and urgent national and international problems? And if you wish to address that, just say so in the essay, but it's not an exclusive thing. So the three categories that we've suggested, which reflect our own approaches, any of those could fit into the OECD challenge. So I'll pass it on to Madeline at the moment to add a few words there.
Right. So it's maybe a bit novel that we have this fourth category that really looks at the OECD, and yet there is a special prize reward that can be gained. That's why we have this category. But indeed, it has also been raised in the discussion forum. Obviously, the categories are not exclusive. So you may actually have another topic, a transnational issue, another challenge to an international organization, or a conflict. That's the other category. There, it makes sense, of course, to look at things in a broad sense. But if at all there is an OECD challenge, then of course, yes, please just do actually mention that and opt for it in the title.
And just before I pass it back to Leah, just one to solve any confusion, the organization that solves the problem, of course, doesn't have to be the OECD. It can be any international organization. It is basically why don't international problems get solved when they're staring us in the face.
Right, and we wish we would all have the solution in the essays. We can't be that ambitious, but we can try to analyze that. A very short remark before we pass over again to Leah Stadler is we have seen some of the very good ideas about potential topics to be addressed. And it is great that you exchange ideas also amongst yourselves about what actually works. It is very important, of course, that you come up with a very good research question, that it's a sound design, and to maybe very briefly already address that, yes, we will take a little bit time for the peer review. That's also why we have these extra weeks that some of you were confused about. But let me not say too much about this right now. So it's very important that you find a topic that fits in for you. And yes, absolutely, there are many, many possibilities that somehow will probably fit into the areas that we have defined. At this point, though, knowing that more will be said about the deadlines, about the ways we proceed, I think it really gets time to hand back to Leah Stadler.
Yes, thank you, Madeleine. So actually, I will talk a bit more about the deadlines because, so as I said, it's going to be a big learning opportunity for you once. So with regard to handling a lot of information and making sense of it and developing an essay with a clear logic. This is the one challenge, and on the other hand, it's also a challenge of time management. And so we really recommend that you keep track of the deadlines. And so the first deadline is actually in 1 week, because you have the opportunity to get a peer review or some ideas from your peers with regard to the research question that you would like to analyze. And so just to remind you once again, so the deadline for that is next Wednesday, so November the 25th. There have been some problems, I think, but now it's solved and you can actually upload your research question and get feedback and also provide feedback. I mean, this is also very important that you provide feedback to the others. And I think this is a great check because from our experience, students sometimes think too complex. So they are too ambitious and want to put too many things in their essay and want to write about too many things. So I think this peer evaluation on the research question really helps you to make it clear and also to find your clear focus in what you're going to analyze. So that is the first deadline, next Wednesday. But this is voluntarily, so you are not graded on that. Where it comes down to the grades or the real evaluation, you have to keep in mind the deadline of Monday, December the 14th. This is where you hand in actually your essay, meaning that from now you have more or less 4 weeks to finalize it. And this is where time management is really important because we realize or we acknowledge that, I mean, you're also have your daily work and your other duties. So really make sure that you have your timetable when you can work on the project. So that was the second deadline. And then the third deadline relates to the peer evaluation that you will give for 4 different essays and your own essay. And here the deadline is Sunday, January the 10th. So there's a bit more time in between because we also take into account that many people there are on holidays, and for instance, also our 2 universities are closed for a certain period. So these deadlines are also specified so in the assignment on our website. So please double check. And with that, I will move back to Richard, maybe for some general recommendations.
Yeah, I've been asked to say a few words on how you can find materials or ideas for the work you're going to be doing. And I'm a great fan of Google, and there are various options there. So one thing you could do is just put in your search term, your original idea, into Google, but in which case you'll hit millions of results. So a nice tip is to put the word PDF. And that is usually, well, it is always the sign, it's a document behind it. So there you'll find working papers and other rather more substantial things to get you thinking. The other thing that is very useful in Google, it has a news function. So you could actually, instead of just looking on the web, look and see what is actually happening in the world. What are people talking about? What are the news topics that are coming up? And have a quick look through them to see what's going on. Now, once you've done that and got a bit of an idea of the area that you're going to be interested in, I always recommend go and have a look at Scholar Google. Now, with Google Scholar or Scholar Google, and I explained that in one of the podcasts that you can look at, you can select the range of dates that you're looking at. So you could say, look, I don't want the old stuff. I just want to look at what's been published in the last 2 or 3 years on my topic. And not only can you then find academic publications on these topics, but you can also often see a summary of them. So you can get an idea, what are people actually talking about? What are the debates? What's the range of opinion that's going on? And always knowing that you've got pretty up-to-date material. Now, don't at that stage, if you've got access to a university library and to their electronic database, you can go ahead. But if you haven't, you're allowed to have 3 articles for 2 weeks from JSTOR. But that's only 3 articles. It means in the period of 4 weeks, if you get that timing right, you can get 6 academic articles, have access to them. Don't get access to them yet because they may not be articles that you're going to actually be needing or wanting at that stage. Now, another thought, and for those who did this recent run of Configuring the World, you'll notice that the OECD has an insight section. And that's a sort of blog every couple of days where they discuss some of the more recent issues. Again, it's an area that might give you some ideas. And again, in all 3 of our courses, there are already ideas of extra literature and access to documentation that you might not have had time to have looked at while you were doing the course itself, but they're all still there. I mean, don't forget, in the Configuring the World, there's a library of back issues of the last 4 or 5 years of many international publications, which you can link to and get for free as well. So there's a range of material out there to try and get a feel of what you're going to do, because the one thing you shouldn't be doing is just plucking an idea out of the air and making up the problem. Just check to see what the range is then and home in on where you think you can really focus and yeah, have some fun with it, because that's the whole idea of doing this course.
Absolutely. I think it's very helpful to get this advice. And again, maybe I could again remind you of the fact that on this course we have these very helpful podcasts. I think it's great also if you're in doubt about how to get to a research question. There are very different approaches of how to address this. It's a lot of fun to actually watch this, I must say. So it is terrific. It's also very helpful because it really tells us, you know, what do we need to do in order to elaborate a good question. And again, it could very well be that in one of the MOOCs you have already worked on an assignment, and this could be an opportunity to extend this. You could work on the problem again. Maybe you have seen the complexity. Maybe you got some peer feedback and you really want to incorporate that. So all of this is possible. Remember, in a way, we're kind of a small select group right now because all of you have finished successfully the 3 courses. So you've done a lot of work, and now we're really getting to this final project. So we're, in a way, among a group of very, very motivated students, and that's also why we like to work with that, and we will actually see assignments in the end. And of course, that's very interesting for us to do, because we know that you put in a lot of work, and it is very fascinating to then see your efforts and see what you did. Okay, that was in terms of general issues. Is there anything else that
Well, again, one of the things I find fascinating with this MOOC challenge and the way we work in the MOOCs are the forums, because I often find very, very interesting discussions develop. There's a couple of hundred of you there, and usually that means that the forum activity isn't that active because there's a relationship between the numbers doing the course, numbers participate in the forum. But I really think it's a unique element in this format that you're able to test ideas and actually get first-hand knowledge from people living in different areas of the world and getting their perspectives. So I hope you manage to do that, and if I have time and the rest of us have time, we'll be intervening now and then. Yeah, amidst all the rest of our work, but that should go okay.
And we don't try to intervene too much. Let me also be honest about this. We have, of course, also seen some of the questions, like, could Syria be an issue to be addressed? My natural reaction would be yes, of course. There is so many issues related to exactly that challenge. Or think about, obviously, refugee issues, very transnational in character. So yeah, that could be
the whole climate issues coming up in the news in the next several weeks. So that's burning topic.
Exactly. There is so much out here.
Sustainable Development Goals.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, sorry, we should actually pass back exactly to Leah.
Sorry, I couldn't stop myself. I was just flipping in the Sustainable Development Goals, which are also a very a hot topic at the moment. And like a general advice that I would give at the beginning, so in terms of how to get started, I often see that students are really enthusiastic and want to start writing right away. And I think it is more productive if you take 1 week to really focus on your research question and try to assemble the material that you need, structure your material, and work on the logical thread. And once you have fixed that, so really, how do I go from my research question to developing solution, analyzing these solutions based on a clearer understanding of what is actually the challenge, maybe on the mind map or other drafts. When you have that set, you move on to the writing process, and you will see that then it goes quite easily. But because the construction work in terms of your concept, that has been done before. So it's great if you're enthusiastic, and really we want you to be enthusiastic, but try to focus on the logic and so your main framework first, and then start the writing process. So I think that is one advice from my side here.
Absolutely. I think very valid advice. I was just thinking, when building in a house, we probably want to have an idea what the house in the end might look like before we start putting these stones on each other. We actually need to have a bit of a vision. So I think that's a very good piece of advice.
Be an architect for your own work.
That's what it is. And then, of course, your peers will say whether the architect has been thinking carefully about the...
Yeah, whether you've forgotten the windows. Or...
Exactly. Those kind of little things that could happen. Absolutely. So it is a metaphor, but you understand what we mean. I think Dr. Stadler's advice is extremely valid. Take a little bit of time to think about a good research question, and then indeed start moving into the actual work on the paper. Okay, I think we already went through a lot of the advice that we can give at this point.
Yeah, it's early days at the moment. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. The planning is just before Christmas, and then we leave you to actually celebrate Christmas with your families, and we will be away. We'll publish, as we did last time, the best essays we'll publish as an ebook format, so that's also something to aim for, as well as the OECD challenge. But I think for us all, the whole idea is to get this forum, this discussion, the opportunity we have of being able to anchor our own ideas in this really international setting. And in this particular case, people who have done all the courses, who are there for experience, and much more content-oriented than in being able to give discussion and advice.
Absolutely, yes. And it is also nice to have this time allocated again, as some of our buildings obviously will be closed in the time span that the peer reviews are taking place, but we will also watch what is going on the forum, but we wanted to make sure everyone has sufficient time then to get through that process.
Okay, we should...
yeah, we pass back.
To Leah.
Gets
Yeah, maybe one point. I think it is, so thank you, Richard, for mentioning once again that we will actually publish in a PDF, so the best essays, because this reminds you also of for whom are you writing this essay. So this essay is not for professors where you think, okay, they're familiar with the context, so I can kind of skip all the explanations. No, this essay is really for your peers. So try to make it everything as explicit as possible. And so be transparent. So we are transparent in terms of the evaluation criteria, and you should be transparent in terms of guiding the readers through your manuscript. And so I mentioned the evaluation criteria, and probably it's also helpful for you to have a look at them before you start actually deciding on your research question, because then it's a question, can you actually incorporate all these different criteria and fulfill actually our expectations and the expectation of your peers? So maybe be a bit pragmatic in terms of, okay, what is expected from me and who is actually my audience for my essay? And I think that will actually help you write a winning essay. Okay.
New York, so she's joined us from New York. Just shows you the potential of the internet.
Absolutely. We have Geneva, The Hague, New York.
Yeah,
that's
well,
just a very international enterprise.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I think there's nothing more for me to add at this moment. We'll be back again in a week's time, and so for me to say good luck with your essays, and let's enjoy this experience together.
Absolutely. Before I say goodbye, I pass over right away again to New York/Geneva.
Okay, so also from my side, thank you once again for registration, and good luck for finding your research question. And don't forget actually to hand in your research question in the peer evaluation. So deadline there is next Wednesday. So good luck.
Great, thank you very much. And indeed, we will be a bit strict on deadlines. I'm sure you all understand it has to be the same situation for all students. So deadlines are indeed deadlines. Okay, well, so again, apologies that there was a slight technical issue. It seems to have been solved now in terms of the submission of ideas, and it has been solved now. If anything else happens, always alert us to that. That's what the forum is also good for. And then the moment we are aware of something, we can address this. Okay, so with this, I think we say goodbye. Also from Leiden University. We see you all again.
Yep.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.